Hello and welcome to Gefet in the Daf. I'm Yael Shimoni, bringing to you Rabbanit Chana Goniger Dreyfus's Shir on Masechet Chagiga, and we're approaching the end of the Masechta. And in the Daf that we'll learn today, we are going to meet Am Haaretz, and we will learn a few more meanings to this name Am Haaretz and see that they have a very big meaning halachically. So let's begin. We are in the sugya in Masechet Chagiga that deal with Tum'ah and Tahara. These are not easy sugyot. And first, we will begin by learning the pshat of Daf Chafbet Amud Aleph. And we will see from that pshat how we will work with Rashi, Meiri, and Tosfot to understand who exactly is Am Haaretz. So let's read the sugya. Veha de Rava veRabbi Ila Tanaihi. The Gemara brings us a machloket between Rava and Rabbi Ila and claims that their machloket is actually an older machloket, a machloket between Tanaim. We will not discuss the machloket between Rava and Rabbi Ila now. We will go straight forward to the machloket in the Tanaim that is quoted here. The Tanya, there's a Braita. Sal וגרוגותני שמילאם כלים והטבילם, בין לקודש בין לתרומה, טהורים. אבא שאול אומר לתרומה, אבל לא לקודש. What is the situation here? We have a sal and a grogotni, which are two very big vessels that you can put inside them smaller cups and glasses and plates and take them into the mikveh, actually a big kli that has inside it smaller kelim. And the question is whether or not to do a tvilah in the mikveh in such a way, are we actually doing a good tvilah? Are these kelim tehurim, or maybe these kelim are still tameim? Says the Braita an interesting thing. There might be a difference between teruma and kodesh when it comes to tvilah. Now that is very, very strange, and we need to understand more about Hilchot Tumah and Tahara to understand this machloket in depth. But let's just say one thing about Tumah v'Tahara. Tumah v'Tahara is something that will be problem with every single vessel we have in the house that might be tameh, but Truma and Kodshim have more of a chance to be pasul if they are touched by a kli, which is tahor or tameh. But what we would think that there would not have to be a difference between truma and kodshim. What matter is there if we're talking about truma or kodshim? These are two things that if are touched by a kli, which is tameh, they will create a problem. There will be posel, the truma, and the meiser. So if we read this and we see that there's a problem with the tefillah of the kelim because they're a kli inside a kli, why would there be a difference between truma and kodshim? Tana Kama said there is no difference. If the tefillah is good for kodshim or for truma, it's good also for the other one. Ben lekodesh, ben letruma, tehorim. That's a very interesting and simple answer to the question. If we have a kli betoch kli, is it good or is it bad? If the tefillah is good, it's good for everything. If the tefillah is bad, it's bad for everything. So I understand Tanakama. Tanakama says it's a good tefillah, and therefore it's good for everything. Abba Shaul says something which is surprising. Abba Shaul omer letruma v'lo lekodesh. Why is Abba Shaul saying that for truma it's okay and kodesh it's not okay? If it's not good, it's not good. If it's good, it's good. What's the story? So that's exactly what the Gemara is asking, because it's something very, very strange. Abba Shaul's commentary, his daya in this bright. So let's read the Gemara and see how the Gemara explains why is there a difference between Truma and Meiser. Asks the Gemara, Ihachi, if this is the case, Truma Nami. Abba Shaul, if you say that for Truma it's okay, but not for Kodesh, so if it's not good for Kodesh, it shouldn't be good for Truma. Leman ka'amrinan, says the Gemara, Chaverim. The Gemara says, I'll explain to you. Why is it good for Truma and not good for Kodesh? Because we are talking to Chaverim. Chaverim are people who are very careful in the hilchot of Tuma v'Tara and the hilchot of Maaser and Truma. So we're talking to them, and Chaverim, they will do a good tvila. Chaverim meida yade. Chaverim, when they go to the mikvah and they take one big vessel and put small vessels in, they will check and see that the tvila is good, that the water covers all the keli. Says the Gemara, well, okay, if we're talking to Chaverim know how to do good tahara for keli. Ihachi kodesh nani. So if it's good for truma, why isn't it good for kodesh? Says the Gemara, I'll explain to you. It's good for truma, it's not good for kodesh. Why? Am Haaretz ve'azilu matbil. Says the Gemara, the problem is not with the Chaverim, the problem is with Am Haaretz. Am Haaretz go to the mikveh also. They see the Chaverim doing this trick. They're taking a big vessel, putting small vessels in, and they're tovel. Am Haaretz thinks, okay, I'll do the same thing. But Am Haaretz is not very careful. The Chaver is being medactic. He checks that the water actually goes into the kelim. Am Haaretz is not medactic. So the same tefillah will be good for Chaverim and not good for Am Haaretz. The Gemara says, Shkoich, that's a very good answer, but Truma is also problematic. Truma nami chatele Am Haaretz ve'azilu matbil. If the problem is Am Haaretz washing the chaver, doing this thing, a vessel inside a vessel, why is it good for Truma and not good for Kochim? The problem has to go that it's not good for anyone, because always Am Haaretz will look at the chaver and make the mistake. Why isn't Am Haaretz making the same mistake regarding Teruma? Answers the Gemara, Lo mekablim minayu. If Am Haaretz gives me Truma, I don't take it from him. Why? Because I'm afraid that he didn't do the tefillah right. So that's why, even if Am Haaretz will copy me and do this tefillah, that won't be a problem for me, because I tell him, listen, I can't accept Truma from you. So even if there is a problem, it won't be my problem. Ask the Gemara, Kodesh nami lo nekabel minayu. So maybe that's how we'll solve the problem. We won't also accept coaching. Says the Gemara, no. Kodesh you have to accept from Am Haaretz. Kodesh has to be something that you take from Am Haaretz, because if you won't take it from Am Haaretz, have le eva. Okay, well, let's stop now and explain. Am Haaretz and the Chaverim go to the mikveh. The Chaverim do a trick. They take a big vessel, put a small vessel inside, and being tovelet. Says the Gemara, if there was that kind of tevila, we won't accept kodshim from anyone, not from Chaverim and not from Am Haaretz. Why? Because Chaverim might do a good job, but Am Haaretz will copy them, and then it will make the kodesh pasul. But Truma, since we don't accept from Am Haaretz, we know that Truma, the Chaver, did a good job, and therefore we can do that for Truma. So the obvious question is, why are we allowing people to take Kodesh, and therefore we're being machmir on the Chaverim and saying, Chaverim, even though you're Chaverim, you cannot do a vessel inside vessel. You want to use these kelim for Kodesh, you have to be told them one by one. You have to be more machmir, because you need to do a more machmir halacha so Am Haaretz won't make mistakes. Why are we doing this extra chumar for everyone? Why aren't we just saying to Am Haaretz, don't give us your kochim? Why? Because it will be an eva. Why is kochim eva and truma not? Asks the Gemara. Truma nami havya le eva. Says the Gemara. Truma is not eva. Why? Lo ichpat le. De'ati li'ahiv le lekohen Am Haaretz chavne. So we'll explain. Truma can be eaten by kohanim. There are kohanim Am Haaretz also. So Am Haaretz who has truma knows that a chaver won't take from him his truma, but he has a different coin to give it to him. So he has an answer to his need. But kochim can only be brought to the mikdash. And in the mikdash, there are only chaverim. So if we won't accept kochim from Am Haaretz, he will not be able to bring his kochim to anyone. And therefore, there will be eva. So that's the pshat of the sugya and Chagiga daf. Get bet, so I'm summing up. Truma and Kochim both have the same problem regarding Truma B'Tara, but we're extra machmir on Kochim. That's what Avashau says, in the way that we're Tova Lekalim, because we want to be able to accept Kochim also from Am Haaretz. So we're going to take a special chumrah in the Tefillah to make absolutely certain that the kelim are tahorim, even though practically you can do this vessel inside vessel if you check it very well. But we want to have halacha that works also for people who are not very medactic, so we'll be machmir, so we can actually be mekel, not mekel, but in order to be accepting their kochim. Truma, we won't be machmir because we won't be accepting their truma. Why can we accept Kochim and we can't accept Truma? Because Truma, there's an answer. You can go to a Kohen, which is Am Haaretz. But Kochim, there's only the Mikdash, so you have to be extra machmir so you can accept Kochim from all of Israel. That's the Gemara. The Gemara continues and asks, who is the Tana who cares about Eva? We saw a very interesting machloket in the Sugya. Tanakama said, this Tvila is good for everyone. Abba Shaul was the one who said, no, you have to be machmir in order to accept the kochim because I'm afraid of Eva. Who is afraid of Eva? Says the Gemara, I'll tell you. The Tana Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi he the Tanya. Amar Rabbi Yossi. מפני מה הכל נאמנים על טהרת יין ושמן כל ימות השנה, כדי שלא יהיה כל אחד ואחד הולך ובונה במה לעצמו ושורף פרה אדומה לעצמו. אמר רב פאפא, כמן מקבלין העידנא סעדותא מעם הארץ, כמן כרבי יוסי. The Gemara does something very interesting. It takes this machloket and connects it to Rabbi Yossi and to the Meimar of Rav Papa, and actually shows us that the issue of Am Haaretz is wider than the question of bringing kochim to Bet Hamikdash. Rabbi Yossi says, "Hakol ne'emanim al taharat yain v'shemen kol yemot hashana." I will believe Am Haaretz and Chaverim about whether or not yain and shemen, wine and oil, are tahor all days of the year. Why? Because if I won't accept their edut on their nemanut on the wine and the oil, they will go and build their own mikdash somewhere else. It's the same problem with kochim. We want to keep Bet HaMikdash a place that we accept everyone, so therefore we need to believe everyone when it deals with issues of Bet HaMikdash. So here Rabbi Yossi is saying a kula when it comes to kochim, not a churma like we had in the name of Abba Shaul, but a kula. We believe everyone. And Rav Papa says, we also accept edut, sahaduta from Am Haaretz, because we take this idea of Rabbi Yossi that talked about emanut and say that it's also connected to edut in general. Rashi here jumps and tells us Rav Papa said that we accept edus because we work with Rabbi Yossi. It sounds that there is a machloket here behind what Rav Papa is saying. Says Rashi, according to Rabbanan, in Masechet Psachim, you do not accept the edut of Am Haaretz in other areas. Where is it written, says Rashi? Go to Psachim Memtet Amud Bet, and you'll see that Rabbi Yossi here is cholek on Chachamim there. And Rav Papa said that we take Rabbi Yossi, which is a little surprising because usually Yachid and Rabbi Malachak Rabbi, but here we see that Rabbi Yossi is accepted by Rav Papa. So this is a very interesting Rashi because Rashi here is acting like Tosfot. He sends us to another sugya. Let's look at the sugya that Rashi sent us to. Here I'm in Psachim Daf Mented, and there in Psachim Daf Mented I see a very long list, 6 things that we don't allow Am Haaretz to do. Tanu Abanan, 6 דברים נאמרו בעם הארץ, אין מוסרים להם עדות, אין מקבלים מהם עדות, אין מגלים להם סוד, אין ממנים אותם אפוטרופוס על היתומים, אין ממנים אותם אפוטרופוס על גבי של צדקה, ואין מתלווים עמהם בדרך, ויש אומרים אף אין מכריזין על אבדתו. So this is the Baraita that Rashi is quoting, and Rashi is saying there's a machloiket between this Baraita and Rabbi Yossi and Rav Papa. Here, Rav Papa is going according to Rabbi Yossi and not according to Rabbanan. That's the Shita of Rashi in the Sugya. So, before we continue, let's look at a different Mishon before we'll move to Tosfot that disagrees with Rashi, that disagrees with what Rashi said, that there's a machloket in the question whether or not we can be Mekabel Am Haaretz as an aid. That is the Meiri. The Meiri in our Masechta, Masechet Chagiga, says, Rashi said that there's a machloket here, that Rabbanan will not accept edus from Am Haaretz. But says the Meiri, not everybody agrees with Rashi. Says the Meiri, Aval gdolei haposkim sovrim, שזו של פסחים אינה חולקת על זו שכאן, אלא שזו של פסחים ושאינו אף בדרך ארץ, ואין מקבים דקאמר פירושו שפסלו לו לגמרי. והוא שכתבו בעניין זה שאין עם הארץ האמור כאן דומה לאותו עם הארץ האמור שם, שעם הארץ האמור כאן הוא שאינו לא במקרא, לא במשנה, לא מתוך כך אינו מדקדק בדקדוקי מצוות. אבל ישנו עם הארץ אחר. אבל עם הארץ שם, שהוא שאף אינו בדרך ארץ, ואינו חשוד על גופן של עבירות. The Meiri says, Rashi says there's a machloket here between Psachim and Rabbi Yossi here in Chagiga. But other poskim thinks that there's no machloket. Rabbi Yossi will agree that there's a different Am Haaretz that we will not be accepting at all. Why? Who are these two different kinds of Am Haaretz, says the Meiri. Am Haaretz here is a person who doesn't know Torah very well, so he's not makbid on mitzvot. And therefore, you can't accept him for edus because he's a good man. He's just not very much into Torah. The people who are described in Psachim, the Am Haaretz in Psachim, that we do not accept them for edus, these are people who are not even in Derech Eretz. These are people who are not in Torah. They're chashud to be bad people doing avaryanut. The word Am Haaretz, says Meiri, does not mean the same thing in Chagiga and in Psachim. So we see here a machloket between Rashi and the Meiri on whether or not we think that the Am Haaretz here in Chagiga are these horrible Am Haaretz that we have in Psachim. According to Rashi, we're talking about the same people, and according to the Meiri, these are two different people, and therefore there's not a machloket. Rabbanan will agree with Rabbi Yossi. Everybody agrees with Rabbi Yossi that we accept the light Am Haaretz, the people who are not very much into Torah and mitzvot, for edut. We have a serious problem with people who are very, very problematic, but not with people who are not very much into Torah and mitzvot. So I'm summing up the Meiri and Rashi. According to Rashi, the Sugya in Psachim is exactly talking about the same people as the Sugya here in Chagiga. According to Meiri, the Sugyot are talking about two different kinds of people. How do we read our Sugya? According to Rashi, Rabbi Yossi is in machloket with Rabbanan. And according to the Meiri, Rabbi Yossi is in the same. According to the Braita and the Psachim, there is no machloket between them. They're just talking about different things. Who is Am Haaretz? According to Rashi, Am Haaretz, whenever we see Am Haaretz, it's the same meaning. But according to the Meiri, you have to check out who is the Am Haaretz that is being discussed in the different sugyot. Now, we are ready to do a slight zoom out and see that what the Meiri said can also be claimed and discussed if we look at Torah in a larger respect. And here I'll be quoting ideas that were written by Rav Yehuda Brandes, who's the head of Michal Herzog, and he wrote about the meaning of the word Am Haaretz in the Torah, in the Mishnah, and in the Amoraim. And he showed a very interesting thing. Here we have a pasuk in the Torah that we have the word Am Haaretz, and obviously the meaning of the word Am Haaretz is not bad at all. Let's read the pasuk in Sefer Bereshis. ויוסף הוא השליט על הארץ, הוא המשביר לכל עם הארץ, ויבוא אחרי יוסף ישתחוו לו אפיים ארצה. Here Am Haaretz is just a way to describe everyone. The people. You have a king and he has his people. The people are Am Haaretz. They're not bad. They're just the people of the king. Now, if we went to the Mishnah, we will see that the meaning of the word Am Haaretz in the Mishnah is the meaning of a person who's not very strong in mitzvot, two specific kinds of mitzvot, which are Trumot Masrot and Tumah V'Tara. For example, in the Mishnah in Masechet Tarot, Hadar im Am Haaretz b'chaser v'shachach kelim b'chaser, אפילו חביות המוקפות צמיד פתיל, או תנור מוקף צמיד פתיל, הרי הוא לטמאים. So here we're talking about taharot, and in this respect, Am Haaretz is not very strong in keeping the hilchot of tahara. So we have a different connotation of Am Haaretz in the Mishnah. It is not just the people. It is a person who is not very strong in Tumah V'Tahara and in Masel. Now, if we move to the Gemara and we see here in Masechet Psachim, we see that Am Haaretz is a very, very bad meaning in these dapim and Masechet Psachim, which go against Am Haaretz. So you see that you're not even allowed to marry the daughter of Am Haaretz. So Rav Branda says that it's the same word with different meanings. And actually what Rav Branda said is very close to what the Meiri said in our sugya, that even though it's the same word, Am Haaretz, it has different meaning in Pesachim and in Masechet Chagiga. Now, let's look at the Tosfot. The Tosfot is using a different technique regarding Am Haaretz, which is connected to what we just learned and maybe closer to the Meiri than to Rashi. So let's see what Tosfot does here. Tosfot begins and says, Harav Rabbi Elchanan Omer, Bekai Maran Kerabi Yossi, מחיישינן לאיבה, לפיכך מזמנינן עכשיו. בכל עם הארץ, אבל גם דמרינן בברכות, אין מזמנים על עם הארץ, וגם רב מנסיה בר תחליפתא לא רצה לזמן עליהם. Tosfot adds another sugya, not psachim, but a sugya in brachot. And here we learn another halacha. The Chachamim did not want to be mezamen on Am Haaretz. So, not only a problem with Tumah B'Tahara, not only a problem with Kochim, but also a problem with Zimun. Now, of course, this is an interesting question. How is Zimun connected? Is the Tosfot thinking like Rashi, that all the sugiyot are discussing the same kind of Am Haaretz? Or maybe the Tosfot is talking like the Meiri and thinks that different sugiyot will have a different explanation from Am Haaretz. So Rabbi Elchanan says, we are pasking, according to Rabbi Yossi, we're choshesh for Eva, and therefore, even though the Gemara doesn't want to be mezamen on Am Haaretz, we are mezamnim on Am Haaretz. So we see here that Tosfot is going with the way that Rashi is reading the sugya. Tosfot thinks it's the same word, but still he thinks we're pasking a quarter according to Rabbi Yossi. Therefore, we will not go against Am Haaretz. We'll include Am Haaretz. I'm continuing in the Tosfot. והרי מפרש, דלא כל הרוצה ליטול את השם, להחזיק לעצמו לתלמיד חכם, שלא לזמן על Am Haaretz וידו ליטול, ואין אנו מחזיקים עצמנו כתלמיד חכם לעניין זה. The Ri does something that is connected maybe to what we saw in the ideas of Rav Brandes. The Ri says, Am Haaretz is always someone who is relative to someone else. Like we saw that Am Haaretz can be the people as opposed to the king, or Am Haaretz can be someone who doesn't know Tumah B'Tahara as opposed to Chaver, who does know Tumah B'Tahara, or you can be a person as opposed to a Talmid Chacham. Says the Ri, in order for me to say that I'm not connected to Am Haaretz, I need to say not only that he's Am Haaretz, I need to claim myself as a Talmid Chacham. And the Ri says, I'm not such a big Talmid Chacham. Maybe in the Gemara there were Talmidei Chachamim, but I'm not a Talmid Chacham, so I can be mezamen on Am Haaretz. Not that I'm cholek on the Gemara. No, the Gemara is of course right. Talmidei Chachamim will not be mezamnim on Am Haaretz, but I'm not a Talmid Chacham. So this is a different way to deal with the gap between Talmidei Chachamim and Am Haaretz, just to say that we're closer to Am Haaretz and not as far as Talmidei Chachamim were from them. So here we see two different, very interesting ways of the Tosfot to deal with the emotional problem or the psychological problem or the Am problem that the Sugya brings about. Do we want to be apart from Am Haaretz? So either we go according to Rabbi Elchanan and say, we decided that we're afraid of Eva, or according to the Ri, saying maybe there is Eva between Talmidei Chachamim and Am Haaretz, but we're not Talmidei Chachamim. So I want to add just the smag here that says that the reason that we're pasking here, Dafka and Zimun, to connect to Am Haaretz is because that if we will not be blessing with Am Haaretz, they will separate from us totally, and that will be like the Eva that Rabbi Yossi described, like the Mikdash. Then the problem was that we will not be part in the same Mikdash, and now it will be the problem that we're not part of the same Shulchan. So we saw here three different ways of Rishonim to deal with the problem of Am Haaretz. Rashi said Am Haaretz is problematic, and he did not deal here with the bigger question, how are we supposed to go along with Am Haaretz? He dafka showed us that Rabbi Yossi is cholek on Chachamim, and maybe Chachamim, other people will disagree with what is written here in the Sugya. The Meiri said, no, there's no machloket. Am Haaretz is different in different sugyot, and according to Meiri, we're going to have to ask the Meiri, what does he think about the sugya in brachot? Is this the Am Haaretz which is problematic in Psachim, or is this the Am Haaretz which is not so problematic, like in Chagiga? And Tosfot went in a different direction and said, A, even if there is a machloket, we're pasking for that yachid or biosi. B, even if we don't agree with that, we think that we're not such big Talmidei Chachamim, so we can include ourselves in Am Haaretz. So today we use the Gemara and the Rishonim to look a little closer at this idea of Am Haaretz and see different ways of dealing with the problem that this issue of Am Haaretz arose in the time of the Tanaim and the Amoraim. I hope you enjoyed your learning of the last stopping of Chagiga, which are harder to do with Tumah V'Tara, and got a new perspective on Am Haaretz with us today. Take care and have a Chodesh Tov and Sameach, Chodesh Adar, Sameach for everyone. Take care.